Hi, I'm Paul Bedford from Retention Guru. I'm sorry that was very dramatic entrance music. My name's Paul Bedford. I'm from Retention Guru, and I'd like to say how delighted I am that I'm going to get to present to you at your conference, despite the fact I'm here in London doing what I normally do. So yeah, delighted that I can be here, delighted to share this content with you. Really upset that I couldn't physically travel to Portugal to be with you. I'm sure your weather's much better than mine, but hey, that's where we are. So what I'm going to do in this session is I'm going to talk you through what we have as data in terms of the top 10 factors impacting retention. Now, obviously, we did this work, and we've been doing this work for a number of years now, and we updated it in 2019 to reflect the changes in the industry from the previous top 10 factors we had. But we never, obviously we hadn't taken into account the global pandemic, the COVID-19 and things like that. So I'm going to make some suggestions around that, although we don't have data necessarily to support it. But I think the top 10 still remain the top 10. They'll probably shift around a little bit over time. But let's get on with it, because I've got quite a lot I want to cover, and I don't want to keep you hanging around any longer than you need to be. All right, so let's go back to the slides. So yeah, I have a business called Retention Guru, and Retention Guru operates globally. We work with health club operators and leisure operators to help them keep their customers for longer. And on the screen now, what you see is just an example of some of the operators we've worked with, and some of those names you'll recognize, and some of them are less obvious. The Gym Group is a low-cost operator from the UK, very, very successful. We worked with them for a number of years. Kicks, the one above it, is a super high-end private health club. So they cost you more than €10,000 a year to be a member of that club. So very different types of businesses. Now, our focus today is on retention, and I want to make this really clear right from the start. Retention is not the opposite of attrition. I hear it said throughout the industry on a regular basis that, oh, retention is the opposite of attrition. It's not. Sales is the opposite of attrition. Sales is when people join. Attrition is when people leave. Retention is the period of time between those two things, and it's about how long people stay. And you're going to want to measure how long people stay. Now, the way in which we do it, we use a method called survival analysis, and we produce decay graphs to show how long people stay after they've joined. And that's what I'm going to show you a few of today to support the evidence of why we're saying these are the top 10 factors. So just to reiterate, or just to strengthen this argument, if in the top club here 100 people join, they stay for 3 months and then 100 people leave, they have 100% attrition. If in the bottom club 100 people join, they stay for 12 months and 100 people leave, you have 100% attrition. Both these clubs have 100% attrition. Here's the thing, what's important is that gap between joining and leaving. It's that gap, it's that period of time when someone's a member. It's those months, weeks that you can stretch that gap out between joining and leaving. And that's what we're going to, I'm going to show you what we can do today. So the top 10 factors are here in this order. They are in the most important first. So visits is the most important thing, follow interactions and so on. Then when we're working with companies, we do a product called Retention Kickstart, where we do 6 sessions with a company focusing on how to improve retention within their business. Now, it's one of these 6 modules. These top 10 factors impacting retention is one of these factors. So let's look at visits and visit frequency. You need to be looking at the visit frequency of your customers. You need to know how frequently they're visiting your club. One of the things that I'm seeing at the moment, very common, is people are reporting the total number of visits. Well, the total number of visits, while useful, doesn't tell me what's going on within the business. Now, traditional mathematics, 1 multiplied by 7 equals 7 is exactly the same as 7 multiplied by 1 equals 7. Here's the difference though. If you've got one customer coming 7 days a week, that's very different for your business than if you've got 7 customers coming once a week. And in fact, if you've got one customer coming 7 days a week and that one customer quits, you don't have a business. So it becomes very important to understand how many visits your customers are making. And the target you're looking for is perhaps a little bit lower than you'd expect. You need your customers to come 4 times per month for them to maintain their membership. So we usually make a recommendation of exercising 4 to 12 times per month, rather than necessarily saying you've got to come 3 times per week, because that's not always feasible. I do recognise that only coming once per week isn't sufficient to really achieve your goals, but it is enough to keep people retained as a customer. Now, I would also suggest you do this type of analysis. You need to break down your membership data so that you can see who's doing what. And you can see here that the bottom 2 groups, 11% did not visit the club at all, and 31% are coming less than once per week over a period of time. Now, that orange line, we describe that as your at-risk members. These are the members that are most likely to quit because they're not coming frequently enough. Now, you need to calculate this out for your business. You need to work out what percentage of your customers are at risk. Particularly now, we're looking at people returning to clubs, and most of the data I've got is that there just isn't 100% of customers coming back. A proportion cancelled at the beginning of the pandemic, but there's also a large proportion who've yet to return, and they're anxious about returning, and we need to find ways of getting them back into the clubs. Now, just to give you the impact of this, if you were to do a comparison of people who visit once per week, for those customers who visit twice per week, you're likely to get an extra 7 months of membership from them. So stepping up from once a week to twice a week, very important. Those customers who visit 2 to 3 times a week as an average will give you about 19 months. And those customers who stay longer than, or visit more than 3 times per week will often come 28 months or more. Now, the big step for you is the one that I want to concentrate on, is once up to twice. That's a big step for most customers. There's a small proportion of customers that visit on a really, really regular basis. We don't have to worry about them in terms of retention. We need to worry about the ones who are coming less frequently. So I want you to do this. I want you to do this calculation. I want you to work out how many of your customers are coming how frequently. Recreate this chart, recreate this table, so that when you're looking at your data, you can get a full understanding of what's going on in your business. You don't just want to report the total number of visits, because that's not useful. You want to report the breakdown of visits by month. How many are making 1 visit, 2 visits, 3 visits, 4 visits, and so on, because that will give you some insight into the risks within your business. So that's the first point, visits. The next one is interactions. Interactions is really important. So when someone turns up, it's really important that you speak to your customers. Now, at this time, I think we're actually talking to our customers more than we did before. I think when people are coming in, we're briefing them about cleaning, we're explaining to them the precautions that we're taking, and we're giving them advice on things that they need to do while they're exercising. We've seen that any type of interaction with a customer that is meaningful has an impact on customer retention. The only difference here is that you don't want to interrupt people. You find times when it's appropriate, so on the way in, on the way out, and possibly when they're transitioning. Now, those of you who've seen me speak before will have seen this slide before, because this is my favourite slide. Now, we did this research a number of years ago, and we repeat it on a regular basis just to check that it still holds true. If I have 1 interaction with you this month, the likelihood of you being a customer next month goes up by 20%. If I have 2 to 3 interactions with you this month, the likelihood of you coming in and still being a member next month goes up by 50%. If I have 4 or more interactions, which really does require 4 visits, it's not lots of interactions in one visit, it's 4 interactions or 1 interaction within 4 visits, you're 80% more likely to stay a customer. That has a really big impact on your business. And as you can see here in this slide, what you're seeing is the red line are customers, how long customers stay if they're spoken to. The blue line are how long customers stay if they're not spoken to on a regular basis. Now that's ridiculous. And if you think that underneath these lines is just euros stacked up, it's just money there being collected, you can see, one, how much more income is generated by holding on to your customers, but also your customers are much more likely to achieve their results. So here's the thing I want you to do. I want you to do a survey of your customers, and I want you to find out, when was the last time a member of staff made an effort to speak to you? So you're asking that question because what you're not looking for, you're not looking to find out when were the staff being spoken to by the customer initiating it. You want to know, when did the staff initiate that interaction? A second question you might ask is, when you're in the club today, were you spoken to by a member of staff? You know, you're trying to find out if staff are being proactive, if staff are making an effort to talk to customers. Now, again, it's interact, not interrupt. Let's move on. Okay. Then it's programming. We want to focus on programming. Exercise programming is vital, and it links really strongly with the onboarding process. But the exercise content must be directly related to the member's goals. So if a customer says they want to lose weight, the member must understand that the exercises that they're doing are exercises that are associated with losing weight. Because if they don't understand the relationship between the exercise and their outcome, they tend to abandon those exercises. So it's really simple. Programming must match your customers' wants and needs. You might want to offer all types of new exercise approaches. You might love functional training, HIIT training, Zumba, Les Mills, not that all these are new, but you might love all of those, but your customers might just want yoga. They might just want Pilates. So you need to be really, really clear about what it is you're offering to the target audience. So do this. Oh, that should have been the other way around. Work out, do those questions. Find out how often your staff are speaking to people. And if they're not speaking to them frequently enough, encourage them to speak to them more. Now, one that's moved up our list, it's always been on there, is group training. Because group training has exploded within clubs. And it's exploded within clubs for a number of reasons. One of the reasons it's exploded within clubs is because of the increase in the smaller studios in the boutique market. Their focus on good quality group exercise has meant that a lot of operators have had to defend their business by upping the quality of their group exercise. Now, group exercise is one of those activities where not everybody's going to choose to do it. And I think it's difficult to actually force people who don't like group exercise to do group exercise. But we have to recognize that group exercise can have a benefit to improving retention with customers. So let's have a look at that. Now, in our research, what we were able to see is that compared to people who do one activity, so that might be just swim, just go to the gym, just go in the dance studio. Compared to people who only do one activity, people who do 2 activities are more likely to stay. Now, within a club, this is a study of 10,000, and what you're seeing is that 48% of people here only did one activity, 32% did 2 activities, and 20% did more than 2 activities. What are the factors that impact class choice? What are the things that customers are looking for? Let me just move that over there. What are the things that customers are looking for? Well, it's one of the things about classes that has the biggest impact is actually their routine. Same day, same time. And once someone gets that into their lifestyle, actually turning up for a class becomes more likely. And so they actually stay because not just because of the class, but because it becomes part of their routine. I'm here at the same day, the same time. Some of it's the quality of the teacher, some of it's the time of the class, sometimes it's the content of the class. The class choice is determined by what the customer wants to do. Some of it is social aspects, being part of a group, and some of it is the fact it's a guided workout. We talk about the fact that lots of people don't want to think about exercise. They want to turn up, turn off, but work out. And when they're working out, they want someone else to tell them what to do so they don't have to think about it. Now, we found when we researched this that 66% of class goers also reported visiting the gym. So it wasn't an exclusive activity. I don't need to be in the gym. It wasn't an exclusive activity. It was an activity. To go into the studio was an activity, it was something that they did, not just the only thing they did. But here's the data. This is what our data shows us. Compared to people who do just an individual activity, people who do a combination of group exercise and individual activity, so they do both, stay longer than people who do an individual activity. So either working out on your own or working out on a group, but that's the only thing you do, but both have positive benefits. But people who do a mixture of group and individual exercise tend to stay a bit longer. Now, what this works out to be is that there's about 18% fewer cancellations if all of your members did some form of group exercise. But remember, not all of your customers will want to do a form of group exercise. So this is something you might want to look at. When you're looking at customers working out, you want to, let's say you're on the gym floor. If you see someone riding a bike, if you want them to do group X, introduce them to group cycling. If they're using functional equipment, introduce them to boot camp. If you see them using the foam rollers or stretching and relaxing, introduce them to yoga, Pilates or similar activities. You're probably unlikely to get someone who's doing one form of activity to join a group where the activity is very, very different. So they want to exercise with activities that they feel familiar with. I think the other thing to consider at the moment is, and we've seen a lot of this with online exercise, during our periods of lockdown, people have gone to online exercise to work out. Now, it's a bit strange because you've got people who want to work out as a group, online, but at home. And so something like Peloton, which has seen a phenomenal growth in users, you've got people who feel like they're part of a group even though they're exercising on their own. And so we've got a sort of a crossover of experiences. And I know myself, I love going to the gym with my friend. We train together all the time. When I ride my mountain bike, I go out with a small group of friends, but none of you can come with us because I just want to be with my friends. But when I'm at home and I want to do cardio, I ride an indoor cycling bike and I do Peloton and I love it. But I have no intention of going into a club and doing a cycling class, even though I used to teach cycling classes. So I used to teach group exercise and I used to teach cycling classes. I have no intention of going into a club and doing a group cycling class because actually when I do my indoor cycling, I want to do it at a time that's convenient to me and I want multiple choice over the activity that I'm doing. And the actual being in a class isn't so important. So that's an area we're going to need to research more going forward because there's this completely new dynamic of where you do your group exercise and how you do that. The next element is social. Social's really, really important to customers. We all want to be social. We're humans. And the nature of being human is that we actually like talking to other people. Yes, there are a few customers that don't, but the vast majority of us actually like being with other people. And one of the biggest challenges we've had recently is lockdown. Now, members who report frequent interactions with fitness staff are much more likely to report they've made a new friend at the club and to say they've enjoyed exercising in the last 3 months. So having your staff talk to your customers should be something that's really routine. Now, we do know, and this goes back to the interactions, that even if your front of house staff have an interaction with a customer, that has value, but it does never have the same amount of value as talking face to face with a fitness instructor. There's a different, customers add a different value to front of house staff, to the actual person who's leading the exercise. So if it's a personal trainer, a gym instructor, a fitness consultant, a group exercise teacher, they always have a bigger impact in a conversation than those members of staff that are just more front of house, cleaning and so on. Not so it's not a value, it just has a different impact. Now, if we look at this was a piece of research we did where we looked at people who just focused on progress and getting results versus people that also wanted to make friends. So we called this social and appearance. So because the focus on the progress was all about appearance, did your appearance approve? We actually found there was a slight improvement in retention with customers who went for social reasons compared to just progress or results driven reasons. And therefore we would always encourage, where possible, to create an experience where people feel like they belong to something. There's a sense of belonging created. Now, in terms of digital communications, and this has been vital in the last 6 months, what we've seen is that your digital communications will have a big impact if you follow a few simple rules. First of all, the content that you send out should be at a ratio of 1 sales message to 4 to 5 pieces of useful information. So it shouldn't all just be sales pages. We recently spoke with a large conference organizer in the US, and they were saying we've got 300,000 people who are on our mailing list, but we can't get them to engage in things like Facebook. And when we went on their Facebook page, it wasn't surprising because everything on their Facebook page was a sales message. It was buy this product, sign up for this course. There was no customer business interaction. There was no questioning. There was no opportunity to express their values. And basically, their mailing list had disengaged with their Facebook page because it was like, actually, it's just a sales page. And it had really got away from them. So the other thing you really want to work towards, if you can, is getting customers to develop about 75% of the content. They need to be adding questions, interacting, responding. That has a really, really big impact on your overall retention within your business. So this is the thing to do. Evaluate the amount of responses you're getting from your posts and find ways to increase the customer interaction. Ask questions, ask for people's opinions, ask them to post pictures of themselves working out, ask them to do before and after shots, ask them what they're enjoying about their workout, get them talking about themselves and then get them talking about you. If you spend all your time talking about you, you won't engage the customer through social media. Goals are really important because they've made the top 10. Now, in most situations, goal setting is done in a very basic way. It goes from the present state to the outcome state. And your present state is where you are now. Your outcome state is your desired state. Now, what happens in a lot of situations is the way in which we set goals with customers is we dive into the detail really quickly. If someone says, I want to lose weight, how much weight, in what period of time, and we dive into the detail and we dive into the program really quickly. But one of the things we need to do is we need to identify what are they called these superordinate goals. These are the abstracts or the motivators of a behavior. Now, this abstract is a what would life be like type outcome. So if I think about myself, why do I exercise? Because I enjoy exercise. If you said me what my goal would be, it would be to increase or at least maintain my muscle mass and my cardiovascular fitness. 1, so my appearance is nicer, and 2, so that I can continue to ride my mountain bike. Now, if you then follow up with, well, how much weight do you want to lose or how much do you want to lift? You're diving into the detail. What you want to do is you want to ask questions that get into the abstract. What does being in shape do for you? So you're going abstract and psychological. What does being able to ride your mountain bike do for you? If you could ride your mountain bike faster, harder, longer, how would that impact your life? You're actually trying to get people to talk about their feelings and their emotions related, because these are the actual drivers of the behavior. Losing 5 kilos isn't a driver of the behavior. Telling me that if identifying or letting me identify that if I lost 5 kilos, one, my mountain climbing on my bike would be easier. 2, I might beat my friends up a hill. 3, I'd look more attractive, therefore I'd raise my eyebrows in a group. Those are the things that motivate me. Those are the things that drive the behavior, not the physical measures of the detail down here in the process. So one of the things I'd suggest to you need to do is identify the present state, identify the outcome state, identify these superordinate goals or the motivator of the behavior, and then dive down into the detail. So you'll be going here, you'll be saying, if I could develop for you an exercise program that made you lose 5 kilos, that made you faster when you were riding uphill on your mountain bike, helped you beat your friends when you're out riding with them, and actually made you more attractive in social situations, is that the sort of program you're looking for? I'm going to buy into that very quickly, as compared to, okay, so if you want to lose 5 kilos, we'll do 1 kilo a week for 5 weeks. You'll need to do this amount of cardio. I need the other bit before that. Now, if you get that right, the impact is people stay longer, because actually the motivation to exercise isn't the exercise itself in most cases. And in fact, we found that people who did have exercise goals, you could reduce the risk of them cancelling by about 10% each month if they could see progress towards those goals. Now, there was also a strong association between customers and them achieving their goals if, let me move this over here, sorry about that, if they were talking to staff. So if staff had interactions with them, they also tended to feel like they were achieving their goals even if they weren't. Now, members who report low progress, let's get back to that. Members who report low progress but are always spoken to by fitness staff are 50% less likely to cancel each month. And I think what this does is this reinforces that importance of talking to customers, identifying how they're getting on today. There's a whole range of things you can do for those interactions. Let's come back to the slides, not that one, this one. Okay. So if all low progress members were spoken to at least frequently, 10% of all cancellations each month would be avoided. That'd be worth doing. So this is what you need to do. Ask this question: what's your main reason for joining? When you achieve that, how will life be different? You're trying to identify what the value of joining the club is. No one generally wants to join a club. They want the results of joining a club. Next one, contracts. Now, this might be out of control of some of you. It might not be something you have control over, but I can tell you this. People who sign up for longer stay longer. Now, this was a study we did on 1 million customers, or just under 1 million customers, in Australia a few years ago. And you can see that customers who sign up for shorter periods stay for shorter periods of time, even, and this is really important, even if you don't enforce the contracts. So when you look at this slide, what you see is people are coming out of their contracts right from the beginning. So even if you don't enforce it, people who sign up for longer stay for longer. So what you want to do is you want to run that analysis. You want to be able to see what does that look like in your business. Now, if you only have one membership type, you're only running it once. But I would run this analysis and I would want to know, should we even be offering all of these different membership types, or could we narrow it down to make actually the whole process simpler? So run that analysis, make sure you can see what's going on within your business. Age is an important factor. I'm not going to dwell on this very long because it may not be something you can impact because of the location of your business, but younger customers quit faster than older customers. Now, generally, they are easier to sell to younger customers and there are more of them, which might balance that out. But in some cases, you're going to have to sell twice as many memberships to young customers as you would to older customers to achieve the same result. Now, if your population where your club is established is an older population, you're going to have better retention. If your population is a younger population, maybe let's say university, your retention won't be as good. It naturally won't be as good, even if there are more people who want to exercise, because it seems at the moment that a lot of younger population, exercise is part of their daily activity, part of their identity. Whereas for older populations, exercise is something that's less part of their identity. But just looking at this slide, if you look at the age group 16 to 24, in our study, they gave us about 15 months of membership. But the 55 plus gave us 22 months of membership. They gave us an extra 7 months. So think about the value of that. This is what it looks like on a survival curve, and it always looks like this on a survival curve. We've never seen it look anything different. Every time we run this analysis, older customers stay longer than younger customers. Every time we run this analysis, there's a break point about the age of 35. And we think that's to do with people's routine more than their age. It's more likely that you're settled in your work, your house, your relationships, and therefore your life becomes more routine. As it becomes more routine, you're more likely to stick to an exercise program. If all members were aged at least 35 plus, 30% of all membership cancellations would be avoided. Now, you may not be in a situation where you can only attract 35 pluses, but there are lots of people now looking at this market and saying, particularly around health, with the pandemic, people are going, what can we do to now say we're the health industry, we're not the fitness industry, or we've always been about health? Then there's a big dilemma there, because a lot of people in the health sector look at the fitness industry in the same way as a lot of people look at big pharmaceutical companies, money grabbing. They're only interested in fads and trends. They're not really in profits. They're not really interested in customers. So we've got a lot of work to do there for us to get across that we're the health, we benefit health, even though our activities do that. So do this, calculate the value of each age group, identify any opportunities to attract older customers. Now, if you end up being the exception and you end up being the organisation that younger customers stay longer than older customers, then great. Let me know that, because I'd love to see it. Okay, slide. Inductions. Gym inductions, really important. This is where I focused on for my PhD. People who get support in the early stages stay longer than people who don't get support. So this was a 12-month randomized controls trial that we ran here in the UK, and we've done similar trials, not randomized, but we've tracked people who have inductions versus those who don't. Now, I'm not suggesting that you make every customer have a gym induction or a gym orientation. I would suggest you make it applicable to those who've not done much exercise or struggle to start. And for those people who did have this type of this type of orientation, gym induction, to help them get started, on average they stayed an extra 7 months. They stayed longer. So the thing you'll want to do is create a comprehensive induction for new exercises. And the area that I would really focus on is, think about them practicing the equipment. Too often now, if you take a 60-minute period for the onboarding, too much of that time is spent looking at apps, looking at downloading things, where actually what they want to do is they want to learn the skills related to their exercise program. So try and balance that out, and you may need to split the process up. So getting them to download your company app might be a different activity than the onboarding. Try and make that onboarding, that induction process, as practical as possible, but limit the amount of exercises so that customers can really, really get a benefit from that. Let's move on. And then finally, discontent. Discontent is what we describe as all the different things that all add up. And usually none of them on their own have an impact. when we do look at reasons why people quit, here it's 82% of people quit because they did not use. That's visit frequency. Underneath that, you've got billing issues, you've got medical issues, you've got facility issues. Some of it's cleaning, some of it's like, I actually got a job at the gym. Now, cleaning is going to become important, but one of the things we have to think about, one of the things we have to think about is cleaning is now part of every day. Cleaning, if you don't clean, it will affect retention, and in fact it will probably drive up attrition. If you don't clean, they'll quit. If you do clean, I'm not sure that they'll stay any longer. It's one of those things that you're going to have to do just as a standard, and if you don't do it, they will quit. If you do it, it's actually expected of you now. So it's a bit of a challenge. Now, here's the extra months of membership you can probably expect. Now, you can't add these together and get more. It does have an impact, but compared to people who completed an induction compared to not, they stayed 7 extra months. People who are visiting twice a week say 7 extra months. Travel time, if they travel less than 5 minutes, it's 11 months. And you can see as I work down this list that actually some of these behaviours are a little bit harder or more difficult to achieve. So these are your top 10 factors impacting retention. I would focus at least at the moment on the top 3: visits, interaction and programming. And if you do, what you'll start to see is that certain behaviours predict or prompt additional behaviours. So if someone turns up for an appointment, they're more likely to sign up to your app. If they turn up, when they turn up to visit, because they turned up for an appointment, they're more likely to be spoken to by a member of staff. And each one of those things adds the amount of time that someone is likely to spend with you in your business. Now, as I said before, this is our top 10, or these are, not top 10, these are 6 things that we look at when we're doing a retention kickstart with customers. And if you'd like to talk to me about how we can do that with you, just get in touch. And you can get in touch with me at paul@retentionguru.co.uk. I want to say thank you for taking the time to listen to this presentation. It's a little bit longer than perhaps some of the others. But go back, watch it again, replay it. I look forward to having an opportunity to talking and visiting with you again in the future. I've had an opportunity in the past to visit Portugal and attend your events and different types of events, and I really enjoy it. I really find it a warm and welcoming place. So I'd like to say thank you for the opportunity to talk to me. If you want to get in touch, that's where you get in touch. You can ask me questions, you can send me emails, we can arrange a call. Thank you for today, and I look forward to speaking to you sometime soon.